Hello, I'm Stephen Gambardella, and I'm here to take the most interesting ideas from the history of philosophy and take those ideas, make them clear, concise, and relevant so that you can use them in your everyday life. Today, I'm going to talk about the ancient idea of ataraxia. Ataraxia is a Greek word. It basically roughly translates to unperturbed. So, A being the negation, unperturbed. So ataraxia was a term that was quite common in ancient Greek philosophy, particularly Hellenistic philosophy, which emerged in the aftermath of Alexander the Great's death. And that's a really important point because Alexander the Great built a huge empire that spanned across Europe, Africa, and Asia. And he died very suddenly at a young age. I think he was around 32 or 33. And the world, as the ancient Greeks knew it, was thrown into chaos. Several of Alexander's lieutenants or confidants or whatever split the empire among themselves and then started to fight with each other over for territorial gains. So the Greek world, which was so, in a way, relatively stable and relatively coherent and cohesive, was suddenly made very, very cosmopolitan. People from all over the world were commingling, and then suddenly it was all thrown into chaos. And that led to a great deal of public anxiety, right? As people became anxious about whether or not they will be affected by all these wars and conflicts that were consuming the Hellenistic world, Hellenistic meaning Greek world. So people were very anxious, and war, as we've seen in the war in Ukraine, wars aren't just about tanks rolling into your town and you being a victim of conflicts in that respect. Wars also cause food shortages, they cause economic turmoil, they cause inflation, they cause all kinds of problems, political problems, instability, that causes a huge amount of anxiety that reverberates well beyond the territory that's subject to conflict. So ataraxia suddenly became a desirable state of mind. Not that it's already a desirable state of mind, but ataraxia became the subject of much of Greek philosophy that emerged at that time. And the three principal schools of philosophy at that time embraced ataraxia as a core concept. And those philosophies were Pyrrhonism, or skepticism as we know it, Stoicism, and Epicureanism. And all three of those philosophies had a particular take on ataraxia. And the term is a technical term that emerged from a military context, actually. Ataraxia was a desirable state of mind for soldiers in battle. The ancient Greeks, for the most part, actually fought battles in a formation called the phalanx, and that's basically a tight lockstep of foot soldiers holding huge spears and large shields, and it was a defensive formation that enabled foot soldiers to not be broken up by cavalry. But that phalanx formation depended on soldiers maintaining a state of unperturbedness and not getting carried away with the passions. There was no room for individual bravery in formations like that, right? So if you break ranks with the rest of your soldiers, even if you're being brave and courageous, you will disrupt the formation, the lockstep formation, the integrity of that formation, which could cause the loss of the battle. So ataraxia was the state of mind where soldiers neither felt fear nor excessive bouts of passionate courage. So it's a state of mind that is about maintaining a stable, smooth, state of mind. And for the Epicureans, the ataraxia is a state that's like homogenesis, right? So a state of stability, a state of not being carried away with too much joy or happiness, because that could disbalance your mindset as well. And that's why Epicureans had a mistrust of arts like poetry and painting, because they felt that those arts could seduce us into feeling heightened emotional states that were not rational. And Epicureans had ataraxia at the heart of what they hoped to achieve. And one way of doing that was actually changing our desires, right? So to achieve the state of ataraxia is not to fulfill your desires. It's not to actually fulfill all of your worldly needs. Like, you may want to go out and get drunk and, you know, have multiple lovers and like live a life of excess, and this kind of folk idea of hedonism, which is, you know, to enjoy yourself to the fullest extent. The Epicureans were really skeptical of that narrow idea of hedonism, even though they themselves were hedonists. They believed that enjoyment comes from actually taming your desires and actually aligning your desires with what's attainable to you in your given moment in time. So ataraxia is the quelling of that perturbedness, and it's a concept that's really important now more than ever, right? In the modern world, in the 21st century world in which we live, we think of happiness and enjoyment as being an active thing that we have to do. We have to be consuming, we have to be partying, we have to be guzzling Coca-Cola or fine wine or craft beer or whatever it may be. We need to be partying, we need to be, you know, having lots of sexual relations with all kinds of different people, and we need to be consuming, and attaining money in order to consume. For the Epicureans, that was a completely wrong way to go about it. Happiness is not an active achievement of desired things. It's the taming of your desires so that you remain happy in your kind of static, stable position of life that you're going through. And that's where you get what we in the modern world call contentment, right? Is a kind of happiness of and feeling of fulfillment with what one already has at one's disposal. I think there's a really important lesson of ataraxia. I hope that lesson was really useful to you. I've written a much more in-depth article about the origins of ataraxia, what it means for us, and its historical context. That's on the link below. Please like and subscribe if you like this video, because there's more to come. Thank you.